Their response to our veterans, I have been appalled. I know this morning when we talked, you said today's show you wanted to just do some questions that you got, right?
So yeah, there was a lot of questions that came in, so we had to kind of go through and we had to pick out some questions, and there were some really good questions that we'll get to in other shows, but I just wanted to kind of pick some questions for this show,
okay,
kind of stay on topic, and and then we'll get to the other questions. Some of the other questions that were in there, though, Sandy, it was so funny. Some people were asking, like, if you're single, like, what's your, what's your status?
I can't buy a date, like, most of the time. So, yeah, single. Actually, I've been single since, I was divorced in 2001. And, I've had my fair share of relationships and stuff, but whatever. Anyway, again, another whole show.
But are you single, ready to mingle?
I'm very single, ready to mingle. I don't know. I mean, my volunteer schedule is like 70 hours a week, and usually by the end of my work day, I'm just so tired. I want pajamas and
Listen, right. You gotta sweep her off her feet. Gotta get her swept off her feet if you want to get a date with Sandy.
Oh, so the podcast is now about Sandy's dating site, right?
No. Oh my gosh.
All right, next. Give me those questions. Let's get on.
All right, so question number 1. Is the VA doing a good job for our vets?
I will say this. There are a lot of challenges at the VA. Things have substantially improved in the past few years. When I first started Vets Returning Home, I was blindsided many times in that partnership relationship, if you will, that I just thought their response to our veterans, I have been appalled at some of the things that have transpired. One time I sent a veteran, he sat down with me and he just wanted to kick alcohol. He had been self-medicating and just drinking, and he didn't want to drink anymore. I said, okay, we got this whole plan together. Here we'll do is I'll send you down to the VA. They'll put you into their detox program, and then they can, do it like an inpatient, and they'll get you all set up for inpatient. And then when you get done with the inpatient treatment, then you can come here, and then you've got all the structure and support from, not only my volunteer staff, but the other veterans in the house, because of all the camaraderie that they give in support of each other. So I sent him down to the VA. They kept him for a day and a half and released him. And when he got back to Vets Returning Home, he was in the middle of detox. He was shaking, and I was so afraid he was going to have a seizure, which he didn't do. But I'm not even going to tell the rest of that story because I cry. Mm-hmm. But let's just say it did not end well. It did not end well, and actually almost made me wonder, am I cut out for this? Because it was terrible, I had sent a veteran down. He was suicidal, and I sent him down to the emergency room, and I said, you walk in and tell them I am suicidal. And it was a male nurse that his advice was to collect all the money he could and go out and buy as many powerful drugs as he could and take them all at once and just go to sleep. And it'll be nice and calm and relaxing, and you'll be painless, and then we don't have to listen to you guys whine and cry about killing yourself anymore. When I first started, there were 1 million claims, disability claims, backlogged 2 years. So these guys, they still have to fight tooth and nail to get their disability. It's almost like the Social Security, situation. If you're applying for Social Security disability, mm-hmm. you can pretty much expect to, go through a whole denial process or whatever. Mm-hmm. Or, don't go in and when you sit down with a therapist, and she says, so how are you? Don't say, oh, I'm good, because she's going to put a note in the file that says, veteran says he's good. No, that you have to say, oh no, I'm horrible. Those kinds of games, it's like I don't understand why that has to happen for our veterans that have sacrificed so much. You know, and one of the other things, and this is a message that I want to relay to any of the veterans out there that are listening. A lot of veterans, so many that I've spoken to, are not collecting disability income, although they're eligible for it, because they say they just don't want to deal with the, you know, the bureaucracy or whatever, the hoops you got to jump through in order to get your disability connection. And my response to that is, you served this country, you fought for this country, and this is a benefit. It's not a handout. This is a benefit that you've earned. You're entitled to it. And you fought for this country. It's time to step up and fight for yourself, you know? And if you need any help, call me, please. I mean, I've found a couple, not many, but a couple amazing veteran service officers that can help you with your claim and will coach you on the things that they're going to ask and, you know, how you need to respond. And it's not like, you know, I'm saying, well, don't tell the truth. Yes, you tell the truth, but it's almost like how to avoid the gotcha pitfalls kind of things. I know that under the last administration, there were significant changes in the VA that have made substantial improvements. Like, for example, nobody could get fired. Like that male nurse that said, just go take a bunch of drugs and kill yourself. It was like almost guaranteed a job for life. You know, I know of horrible things and all they do is move them to a different department.
Yeah.
That's different now, you know. So that in itself has improved the quality of care quite a bit. When somebody's job's on the line, I guess, makes the difference. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it's kind of a shame that, you know, it has to be that way. It should be, these are our veterans and they deserve the best of care.
The VA facilities are pretty rough too, aren't they?
You mean the actual hospital itself?
Not the VA hospitals, but the facilities where they house veterans that don't have a home to go to?
Okay. So those are not VA properties.
Oh, okay.
Those are partners, if you will.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, in, you know, some of the actual buildings are beautiful. Mm-hmm. You know, one of the buildings downtown, Illich bought out one of the old buildings and built a new one, mm-hmm. and mm-hmm. You know, overpaid them like substantially so they could have this phenomenal facility.
Yeah.
And the facility itself is beautiful. The VA pays those properties. Like, we receive no government funding.
Right. Yeah.
So, and the difference is that for us, even though I have to beg money all the time, this is a labor of love. It's not about the money for us. So it's about the quality of care and the way we can respond quickly to a veteran's needs. Whereas some of the partnerships, you know, have to deal with all those rules and regulations and policies and procedures and all those things. No, this guy's in trouble right now.
Yes.
We need to help him right now. We can't talk about it for however long it could take, you know. So that's the difference. Not everyone likes what I have to say, but I'm speaking from my heart. I've housed 1,700 veterans at Vets Returning Home in 7 years. You know, I could write a book on that subject in itself.
Coming soon.
Oh, yeah, maybe in my next life, because I don't have time right now. But anyway, what else you got?
The next question is, why do you think so many of our vets are committing suicide?
This is my personal opinion of what I've seen and experienced personally. Not from any data, not from any studies. This is just what I think and feel. If you can imagine these kids, you know, they've been with their parents right up until they join the service. Mom says, you know, get up, get dressed, make your bed, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Then they go into the military. You know, they sign up. In most cases, you know, they've joined the military. We haven't had the draft in forever. So when they come home after their service, whether it's 2 years or 4 years or whatever they've committed to, okay, they know that they will come home as a hero. They've served their country. They're connected with all these benefits that they've earned, school and everything in the GI Bill, and all these amazing things are going to happen to their life. And I know from conversations that I've had with quite a few veterans that, they're over there and it's hell when they're in combat. Those that are in combat, they're in hell. And they're holding on by their fingernails, and they're thinking, okay, 60 more days and I'm done. I'm home and I'm a hero and I'm all connected, and I'm going to buy a new house and I'll have a new car and whatever. And then when they get home, one thing that happens is they come home to their loved ones and they're different than before they left. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times their loved ones are like, whoa, who is this guy? I don't even hardly recognize him. He's changed. So there's that whole dynamic that goes into that, whether it's, your husband is different, whether it's your son that's different, or your siblings, that's different to you. So they struggle with those personal, deep relationships. Then they find out that, they got to fight for their disability income. And then they got to deal with the VA, and then their medical issues set in, so they're having complications, let's say, inflammation from an older injury that now it's arthritis or something's coming in. Now they got to go down and fight with that. And a lot of times, the VA has somewhat of a reputation of prescribing a lot of meds. That's where a lot of the addictions come in. It's one of two things. I can't say it's not that. The majority of the issues with the veteran addictions are usually one of two things. They're either self-medicating because they don't want to go to the VA, or they tried to go to the VA and got frustrated, or they went to the VA and they got over-medicated and now they need more, meds that they can't necessarily get. I've went nose to nose with, some of the other parties involved in the veteran care, if you will, because, it is kind of a team, although we are out on the peripheral levels at Vets Returning Home, because we are not, contracted anywhere,
right.
We're still very much involved. I still get, regular referrals and stuff like that for veterans, from the VA. One of the programs, for example, if you can imagine these kids coming home, they're couch surfing with friends and family. Mm-hmm. And they've met with the social workers. They're in on these programs. There's like the HUD-VASH. It's the same as a HUD Section 8, where they subsidize your rent, mm-hmm. right? And that program takes about 3 or 4 months from start to finish to get them in, and or there's a program called the SSVF grant. For a couple of years, they were pushing really strong on what they call rapid rehousing. So if a veteran identified himself as homeless, they would instantly connect him with the SSVF grant and pay the security deposit, put him into an apartment, and pay the rent for 3 months and buy the bed. And that's usually when my phone would ring.
Yeah.
And I get a veteran that would be like, hey, I hear you're helping veterans. We are. I said, are you in a housing crisis? Oh, no. I have a beautiful apartment. I just got a beautiful apartment. I go, let me guess. You got a bed? Yeah, I got a bed. But the problem is I don't have any sheets or blankets or pillows. But bigger than that, I don't have any food. But even if I had food, I don't have pots or pans or plates or silverware. I said, so you actually just have a bed, right? Yeah, I have a bed. So, my conversations is like, listen, we're not doing these veterans any favors. When they were couch surfing, they were with loved ones.
Yeah.
If they were sleeping on their brother's couch or their parents' couch or their buddy's couch, they gave them a pillow and a blanket. They got up in the morning and they had a cup of coffee in a cup. Now they get to suck water out of the bathroom faucet. and it's just heartbreaking. And I know that this is when, all this time they were serving, they were in combat, they were just hang in there, just hanging. So this is what they hung in there for. Now they got it. That's it. You got an apartment and a bed and nothing else. And you still get to fight for your disability income. So who's going to buy your toilet paper? You have no money. You have no income. And you have disabilities, so it's challenging for you to get a job and actually keep that job,
So all of these things can link to their depression and their, downward spiral of.
To the point where they just go, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore.
It's heartbreaking.
Horrendous. I just lost a veteran, actually a veteran friend that I've known for, I met him in 2001, and he just committed suicide. I think, probably the biggest thing is that we don't know how to fix it. And it's not, I can't say it's not getting better. When I first started working with the veterans 7 years ago, the suicide rate was at 22 a day. Now it's supposedly 21. That's 7 years. It's unacceptable. Unacceptable.
Why are so many vets homeless? And what do you think is the root cause of the homelessness?
There will always be a homeless veteran. Should it be overwhelming as it is now? Absolutely not. There's a lot we could do to tighten our programs. When I first receive a homeless veteran at Vets Returning Home, that's the first thing I do is I ask them, so explain to me what happened, the issues that brought you to crisis, because you don't make one wrong turn and end up homeless. Nobody does. There's a series of events that happens. Well, this happened, and I thought I should turn right, but I shouldn't. I should have turned left, and then this happened, and that happened, and then the next thing you know, I'm homeless. So when these veterans, typical conversation, when I got home, I got a pretty decent job, and I was working a lot of overtime, and then they cut my overtime, and when my overtime's canceled, I couldn't afford my car insurance. And then, of course, my birthday, I couldn't renew my plates. I had to keep driving because I had to get back and forth to work, and I got a ticket. And, of course, I couldn't pay the ticket because I still didn't have insurance. And next thing you know, there's a bench warrant. I got pulled over again. They impounded my car. I went to jail. While I was in jail, I lost my job. When I got out of jail with no job, I couldn't pay the rent, and I got evicted. And where's your car? My car's gone because I couldn't get it out of impound. So, okay. So this is the thing that blows my mind, though, is I say, so when did that happen? Like, when did you go to jail? That was 4 months ago. Okay. So when you got out of jail, how are you getting around now? I'm taking the bus. And I say, didn't it dawn on you to take the bus when you couldn't renew your plates? I mean, why didn't you just park your car and say, I'm not going to drive because bad shit's going to happen if I'm not saying that to slam these guys. I'm not. I think that in itself ties into the fact that these men, mom told them everything to do. Get up, get dressed, dinner's at 6, make your bed, be home by 11. And then Uncle Sam, they went right into Uncle Sam, and he told them everything right down to the color socks they're going to wear. And then after their, service is done, whether it's because we broke them and discharged them because of their disabilities or because they've finished out their commitment. But either way, okay, you're done, go home. And they've said to me, I don't know what to do. Nobody's telling me what I'm supposed to do. So the lack of problem-solving skills. While we as civilians were learning, we went to college, and mom and dad loaded whatever, $50 a week on a debit card, so that you could have walking around money and food or whatever, maybe $100 a week because it's food too. We learned very early on that, and it's usually like that first weekend that you're at your dorm and you go, hey, I got $100 on my debit card. Well, let's go get a kegger and some pizzas and have a party in my room, right? Well, that person learned the next day, that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because now I get to starve all week, right? But our veterans don't learn that because they always have, they go 3 hots and a cot. They're always going to get fed. They're always going to have a place to sleep. They're not learning those little life's lessons that we learned. You know, what happens if the repercussions of our actions, the veterans don't deal with that until they're grown men. Now, they're coming home, they're, 22, 24, 26, 30, but they've missed those problem-solving lessons. So I think that that's probably the biggest thing that creates homelessness is the lack of problem-solving skills. I would have parked my car because I already know I cannot afford to get another ticket. I know if I don't pay that first ticket, there is going to be a bench warrant, and I will go to jail. And then they'll impound. I know all these things, and I think ahead of that. And I'm not saying all veterans, guys, don't beat me up here, because I have met amazing veterans with incredible problem-solving skills, right?
But not everybody's wired the same.
They're not. But I think that the fact that our veterans miss that young part of their life, they miss a big chunk of that, those learning curves, and that's where it ends. And then pile on the, well, I went down to the VA and I was in horrible pain because I got blown up, and I had one veteran who broke his jaw, broke his collarbone, and broke his knee when he was in a Humvee, and it got hit and it rolled and all that stuff, right? And he had tinnitus in his ears and obviously some PTSD, and so he was in chronic pain. They set his jaw, they set his shoulder, and they set his knee, but then arthritis and all the inflammation, and then he was favoring his knee, so it kind of threw his back out and all those painful things. And the next thing you know, he's not only eating a lot of prescription meds, but he was doing some self-medicating stuff and marijuana and experimenting in other things, and then it just begins to spiral. So, it's usually, there's no one answer, it's layered, But I think if we could do anything for our veterans, and this is kind of what I would like to do at some point is be able to work my way down to some of those decision makers that, I can, and have these conversations to say, what do we need to do, to at the root of the problems? Because the reminder I asked you to send me, this will lead me right into that.
Okay.
So
I don't have to remind you anymore.
You don't have to remind me.
Okay.
So we had been open for about a year, and I ended up with 2 female veterans, both homeless, both had daughters, both had 2 daughters. And Vets Returning Home was very new, and I didn't have the funds to just put them in a hotel, right? So one of these families came to me. Now, she had been 6 weeks living in her car with her 2 daughters. They were 11 and 12. And they were staying at a state park, and they were walking dogs to make money so that they had money for food. So they would walk dogs enough to get enough money for lunch. Then they would walk dogs and get enough money for dinner. And in the meantime, she's running around to all these different veteran service organizations looking for help. And every place she went, they would say, oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, we don't do that here. You need to go over there. Well, then she had to go back, walk more dogs, save some money to put gas in her car to get over to the other place. And then she would get to the other place, and they would say, well, I'm sorry. No, you have to have an appointment. I can schedule an appointment for next week, Thursday. Okay, so now she goes back, walks dogs, comes back next week Thursday, sits down. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No. You need to go back over there. Well, I was already there when they told me to come here. No, you need to go there and you need to see. It just, I call it the hamster wheel of veteran services. She was just running and going nowhere fast. So she did that for 6 weeks. When she found us, we did put her in a hotel, right? Now at that time, again, money was really tight. So Vets Returning Home paid for a week. Sandy Bauer personally paid for a week. I had Vietnam Veterans Chapter 154. Thank you guys, you rock. Ended up paying for 2 weeks. And then I wanted to connect her to the SSVF grant, which would have had 3 weeks of hotel funds in there. So that would have given me 6 weeks, right? Now, this is a female veteran who fled domestic violence, right? And she had no job, no income, no disability income. And she was a hot mess. So it's not that easy to just go, well, go get a job and feed your kid.
Right.
Okay, she needs help, right? So she was on what they call the by name list for the HUD program. But that takes, best case scenario, even when it's expedited, a 3-month turnaround, right? So I contacted the then director of the homeless division. Her name was Pat Woshan. She's now retired. But I contacted Pat and I said, Pat, what we need to do is be able to bridge the SSVF grant where they will pay the security deposit and 3 months worth of rent, right? Use that, put her in an apartment while she's waiting the 3 months for HUD-VASH. Common sense, right?
Right.
And Pat said, no, we can't. It's one or the other. You can't use both programs. And I said, I understand, but we need to be able to use both programs. I said, it's the perfect solution. And I said, otherwise, what do you suggest I do? You want me to put her back in her car for another 6 weeks? Because I have nowhere else to go. And she said, well, Sandy, I am not the decision maker on that. And I said, I understand, but you have the ear of those that do.
Right.
I said, pick up the phone, call somebody in DC, and see if you can get them to listen. I mean, run it up the flagpole. What does it cost, right? And she's like, all right, fine, I'll make the call. And she did. And I said to her, I said, okay, but we have 5 days. So it's got to happen now.
Right.
We can't just, the typical, let's talk about it for a month or a year. I don't know how this happened. I swear that was God intervening because, I prayed. We were all praying, But Pat Woshan called me back like 4 days later. And she said, well, I ran it up the flagpole. And you were right. They listened. They agreed. Now, we could then bridge the SSVF grant to the HUD-VASH, put them immediately into the apartment, right, while they're waiting on that second long-term support. Mm-hmm. And the thing that blew my mind about that, now that was a change of policy nationwide, right? That was, and I'm thinking, wait a second. Like, I've been in this industry, if you will, this arena for a year. I have no social work background. I'm not a veteran. Mm-hmm. I'm learning about the veteran programs and all the different idiosyncrasies of it. But by far am I an expert? How is it that my little 9th grade, pea brain can have that insight, And then, so anyway, that was amazing that was resolved.
Yes.
Okay. Then they switched it and said, no, we can't do that anymore. What? Okay, now we're back to this. And then I just found out last week that I guess we can do it again.
Wow.
Yeah, because I just had a debate with one of my veterans. He said, I'm out. I said, where are you at? What are you doing, in your process of transitioning. I give them their to-do lists of things that they need to address. And he said, well, the caseworker said that she's going to put me in the SSVF grant while I'm on the by name list for HUD-VASH. I said, that doesn't happen like that. Have her call me. So she called me and she's like, well, I'm pretty new. I will check into it. Yeah, you better, honey, because I know we couldn't do it, then we could do it. Then we couldn't do it again. Now, unless they flipped again. So she called me back and she's like, yep, we can do it. So now it's back on. Thank you, God, but still very frustrating that, it's like who's on first there.
Can I add something in?
Sure.
The reason why you think of these things, though, Sandy, to me, is I feel like you are mission driven and you have a mission and to help these veterans. And that's why you're thinking of these things. And I feel like that's why you're doing what you're doing, because
I think that honestly, and I say this kind of not to sound arrogant or anything, I mean this sincerely, but I think that in itself is the real weight of what I bring to the program.
yes.
That's what I bring to the table. I'm good at, I'm good at the, fundraising, and I'm good at public speaking, but bigger than that, the biggest thing is that I am a problem solver,
Yes.
and I think out of the box, and I don't take no for an answer. So, and I think another big part of that is because this is a labor of love for me. I'm not going to sit down and meet with a veteran and hear his whole story as to what issues brought him to crisis, and not own that, like as if it were my kid,
Right.
And my kid is in this much trouble, so it's not a job where I'm juggling, whatever, 30 or 40 or 50 cases, and I just have to get through the week to get my paycheck. It's not like that. I had a question. Someone asked me a question this week, as a matter of fact. And I was taking someone on a tour of our facility. I call it the nickel tour. So anybody want the nickel tour, feel free to stop by, because I love showing people around about what we really do there. But when they asked, a question on why, so many veterans are homeless, and where are their families? Why, because I know right now if I became homeless, I could pick up my phone, go through my 5,000 contacts, and I could find 500 people that would let me crash on their couch. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But that's not typical of most anybody.
Right.
Right? I'm 62. I've been in business forever. I have a big presence now with Vets Returning Home in the community. I know a lot of people, but not everybody is in that scenario, right? But I want to tell a story, and it's heartbreaking, but, one of my veterans came home after he did 3 combat tours, right? And this is 24-year-old, I guess, 25. And, had real deal combat, right? So some really rough experiences. And I'm sure some trauma with that. I know for a fact trauma with that, because I know him now very well. And I know what he deals with. He was staying with his mom. Of course, he went home to his mother. His mother loves him, right? Mm-hmm. He went home to his mom. He's sleeping. His mom knew that he had an appointment that morning, and he was oversleeping. So she went to his room, opened the door, and I'm going to change the name, just because I don't want everybody. I don't want him to think I'm telling his business. But she said, Bob, get up. You got that appointment. You're going to be late, Bob. And he's still sleeping. Was still sleeping. So she went next to his bed, and she shook him by the shoulder. Come on, Bob, get up. He broke her arm. you know what I mean? You don't come at him like that. And now she's scared to death of him. Rightfully so.
Right.
You know what I mean? I have another veteran whose parents brought him in. And his mom and dad sat right in my office crying because they were afraid of him. They were scared because he talked crazy stuff. He was paranoid and, he was afraid to go to sleep at night because he had reoccurring nightmares. So he was sleep deprived. And with the sleep deprivation came paranoia, So he thought, all these people were following him and, bad things are happening out there and you guys don't know, they're watching me and that kind of stuff. And, yeah. So there's many, 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 many reasons. Our veterans coming home will always deal with those things,
Yeah.
So the homelessness, mom, there will be other mothers that are afraid of their war heroes because they don't know how to deal with them. And so unfortunately, places like Vets Returning Home are always going to exist. Peacetime, wartime, doesn't matter. They're always going to. All of our veterans. I had a veteran came in once. He was making like $60,000 or $70,000 a year, married, had 2 kids, owned his own home, 2 cars, credit cards, all that stuff. And he showed up at Vets Returning Home on I can't remember if it was a Friday or Saturday night, but he said that his PTSD was kicking in and he was afraid he was going to hurt his wife. So he needed to leave. But even though he had a good job, he still had, when you have a mortgage and car payments and kids and everything else, it's not like you have an extra whatever, $1,000 a month to go rent an apartment for a few months,
right.
Or even a couple $100 to go get a hotel for a few nights. So places like Vets Returning Home are the safe haven for these guys that they know that they can come and it's not even about the strength necessarily of our program that is so impacting. I think if anything, it's the camaraderie and support that they get from and being with their brothers who know what they're dealing with and can support each other, and the structure that we have for them. Get up, get dressed, room inspections at 8 a.m., morning meeting, Monday through Friday, go around the table, what's on your agenda for today, and if the veterans are not busy in the house, then we ask them to volunteer. And if they don't volunteer, then they're voluntold. They need to stay busy, you know. So, yeah, we all have a lot of work to do, in the veteran arena of, fixing some of these issues. And, talk to your local politicians. Do your own research, people. We can dig and find articles and things like that to help educate yourselves on what is going on with our veterans and what we can do to make a difference. So, and we can all do something, Not everyone can do everything, but we can all do something.
Every little bit helps, right?
Every little bit helps.
Somebody does something little and then another person does something little.
Yeah.
All of those little things coming together will make a big difference.
My friend, she volunteers once a week, and she's, I'm not going to say her name because she's going to be upset when I say her age, but she's in her 70s. Stunning, beautiful, beautiful woman. But she comes in once a week and she hand writes the thank you cards, for people, that are making monetary donations or whatever, all that the community does to us, for us, right? And then during COVID, and when we were on lockdown, and then even afterwards where, people coming and going in and out of the facility was scary. We didn't want COVID to come into the facility. So anyway, now she just picks up the information and takes them home, writes it all at home. So the closest she comes in is the lobby, so there's no risk of, spreading germs and that kind of stuff. But, you know, even just little things, I don't want to say little because I know that she spends a lot of time writing out those cards, but
yeah.
things that you wouldn't even think of that could actually help an organization like ours
Yeah.
as a volunteer perspective. You don't have to have secretarial skills to run my office, you don't have to be a cook or kitchen experience to help in the kitchen. I don't care if you want to bake brownies and drop them off. Our guys like brownies or
Yeah.
homemade bread, or you farmers, drop off some sweet corn, okay? They love the sweet corn. And you hunters, if you have success in the woods, in your hunting things, and you process that meat and drop off that venison, because our guys love that. So there's just so much that we can all do together if we just think out of the box.
Yeah.
And it's not always, it's not necessarily about writing a check. There's a lot of people in trouble right now that just cannot write that check. And it's not just, I'm not just promoting for Vets Returning Home. There's a lot of wonderful, amazing organizations. There's a lot out there that are just equally awful, But there are some that are really doing the deal, and check out these places that you're donating to, Find out, ask them to see their financials. If they're a 501c3, that's public information.
Yeah.
Ask them to see their financials. Ask them how much their payroll is. Ask them how much their director is getting paid. Because usually with a director's paid position, it's not unusual to see, $250,000 salary, which I just think is wrong. I just think it's wrong. If you're going to be in the nonprofit world, I understand that most people, unlike me, I've been very fortunate that my privately owned company still pays my salary. And I'm in a position where I don't need anything from Vets Returning Home, and I can afford to volunteer, But, as I always say, if and when I get hit by a bus and my board members need to replace me, they will more than likely have to hire someone. But it's right in our minutes. It's already been discussed in writing and agreed. No one in the history of Vets Returning Home will ever make a six-figure salary. I said, by all means, if you can afford, pay them $99,999, because they will earn and deserve every penny of it. It's the hardest, most challenging thing I've ever done. And no one could ever pay me enough money to do this job. I mean, if somebody said, he will pay you, $1 million. No, I would not. It's not worth it. This has to come from the heart,
Thank you, Sandy, for everything that you do for our veterans.
Not just me, my team.
Your team.
All
yes.
of them,
Yes, thank you to Vets Returning Home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
And even my veterans, like I have, 4 veteran managers that live on site. Do I have 3 or 4? 3. 3. I have my kitchen manager, my house manager, my house captain, and then your husband just kind of took my kitchen manager's assistant, Alex. So Alex was volunteering in the kitchen, and he was like Chef Paul's assistant, right? But now Alex has a full-time job. Thank you, Keith Galfis, for hiring our veterans.
We love Alex so much, too.
I know,
thank
right?
you. Thank you so much, because he's amazing.
Yeah.
He really is. So,
yeah,
definitely blessed.
Yeah, once we can get them stabilized and address all those issues that brought them to crisis, and boost their confidence.
Yeah.
Some of them need that little,
Yep.
encouragement. I think I can. Then you got a good employee. But the problem is that when they try to juggle a job, when they're struggling with addictions and PTSD issues and all the, there's a bench warrant for my arrest because I couldn't pay the traffic ticket, or, bench warrant because I'm behind on my child support from friend of the court. And how do you go to work and do a good job when you've got all that pressure and weight and not a clue on how to start unwinding it?
Yeah.
Is the problem. These are becoming pretty long-winded. Sorry. But thank you all for following us today. And I see a lot of comments in there and people logged in. It's too far away for me to even come close to seeing it. Real quick, I want to say this, because we're discussing this internally too. This podcast is an experiment, right? I don't know from 1 minute to the next what direction it's going to go. I'm looking for that inspiration to say, this is where we're going. Now, although, we just got 3 questions, well, actually 4.
We've had a few.
Well, no, that you presented to me. I haven't seen them. I don't have time.
Right.
So I'm looking to you guys to screen those. But the questions that you presented today, other than if I'm single, and for those of you that have missed the early part, yes, I am.
Never put that over your original answer.
But they're all veteran related. So is that where we're going with this? If this is where we're going, that's fine. I have no problem. And honestly, I want to start bringing in some guest speakers, and I have a great lineup. I just want to build the momentum before I start bringing people in, where I've got 13 viewers or 50 viewers, or I don't even. Are we getting any? Is it building? Are we getting any traction?
It is. I think.
Little?
And I think you bringing guests on, then their friends and family are going to want to watch it and then follow. And make sure you hit that like and subscribe and share button. Just
share, guys.
it. Yeah, we need to make this big so we can get to the point, right? So
Yeah.
Vets Returning Home will benefit from all of this. Like, this is all for Vets Returning Home. It's it's to create a residual income for Vets Returning Home. So it's another way of money flowing into the organization to keep everything going. And
So I don't have to keep begging from all of you guys.
yeah, and just a share and a like and a subscribe to the Sandy Bauer YouTube channel, and then following Sandy on Instagram at The Real Sandy Bauer, and then also going on the likes page. And I know I always sound like a broken record, but that like, share, and subscribe will do all of the wonders for Vets Returning Home. So
Right. Awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate your support and all our community does to help our veterans. And we'll see you next week.